Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the American Music Fan coming at you with my 8th Beatles review. This time of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I've already reviewed Please Please Me through Revolver and the Beatles box set. So if you want to check those out, they're up there on the channel. So just click that little More From button or whatever, what have you. But yeah, you're obviously here today not to watch any of those videos. You're here to watch my Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band review. Okay, Sgt. Pepper was, like I said, the 8th studio album put out by the Beatles. It was released June of 1967, so they spent quite a bit of time recording it. At this point, they had stopped touring completely, and they had stopped touring absolutely completely, and people were kind of wondering, is there going to be any more Beatles albums? Are they done, or... oh boy, well... Anyone who said they were done has another thing coming, because these guys had not even produced their best stuff yet. Sgt. Pepper was voted by Rolling Stone magazine to be the greatest album of all time in their 500 greatest albums of all time collector's issue thing. Personally, I don't think there is a greatest album of all time, because really there's too many great albums out, and people are going to keep making great albums. So I don't think you can really put a name on that. Yellow Parlophone disc, as usual. Kind of sick of pulling those out. But yeah, okay, so, it's a really great album, and I kind of understand where it is. I mean, this was the album where the Beatles solidified themselves as a power band. Like, they were already huge, obviously. They broke America, and they did, everything else already, but this is where they became that revolutionary Beatles that we all know and love. The visionary Beatles, the Beatles that, the number one greatest band of all time Beatles. This is where they started really switching it up. They took rock and roll and music, for that matter, and turned it on its head, doing things on this album that nobody's ever done before. And a little story behind it is that the one Paul McCartney likes to say is that the Beatles were vacationing, apart from each other for a while, just to take, a little break. And Paul was on this plane, and he's the one who thought of the idea for this alter ego band. Because at this point, they were sick of Beatlemania, and they kind of wanted to broaden their horizons a little bit. So they came up with this alter ego band, which is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And they shed that look and went to that look. So, yeah, that's the one Paul likes to say. I don't know how true that is, but, Okay, the album starts out with kind of an intro song to the album, which is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song. Part 1 and Part 2, Part 2 is at the end of the album, but Part 1 and Part 2 are actually both really good, rocker songs. They're really rocky songs. They're really... it's pretty basic stuff. Why is Paul's back towards the camera? I don't know, because he didn't want to look at him. Maybe he had a zit or something. But, yeah, it's a good song. It's kind of rock songs. I am a member of the group who thinks that the Beatles are 100% a rock band. So, yeah. That goes into probably my favorite one of my favorite Ringo songs, with a little help from my friends. Obviously, it was written by John and Paul again, but Ringo sings it, and sings it really well, I think. Does a good job. It's kind of just a series of questions, what would you do if I sing out a tune? Would you stand up and walk out of me? Let me hear your ears, and I'll sing you a song. I'll try not to sing out of key. Good poems and stuff there, and good kind of... it's kind of a sad song, actually. And man, I know we're here to talk about the Beatles, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this guy up, but James Taylor does a killer rendition of this song. I think they're on YouTube somewhere. There's a live James Taylor from the 70s at some point, and he's playing live at the BBC, and he plays this, and it was just what? That is the best thing ever. So, yeah, that was pretty good. It's a really good song. Obviously, there's a really good chorus. And yeah, Really good. This album is a lot different from anything the Beatles had done prior. I mean, for anything anyone's ever done prior. I mean, this is completely different. Next, we have the psychedelic journey of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which that the story behind that song is that I guess John Lennon's son Julian gave John a drawing he did of that somehow inspired John to write Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. A really good psychedelic song, and if you've seen the movie Yellow Submarine, I think one of the best sequences from that movie is the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds sequence. It's really neat. It's a really good song too. Really trippy. Obviously, it's just talking about kind of goes everywhere. Actually, I mean, there's not really one specific point that I could figure out, but yeah. Then we have Getting Better, which this is a weird Paul song. I usually don't think of Paul as doing this kind of song, but it's singing about how he used to be this horrible person, this really like humgrummity dum 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 person, and he is trying to change into this better person, which is a good song, but I don't know how much it really applies to Paul. I mean, maybe I'm just reading into it too much, and it's just a song about some random guy. But yeah, good song. I really like the bass line to that song. Good bass line there. Paul McCartney has got to be my favorite or second favorite bass player. Not because he can do crazy stuff, just because he's so versatile on that thing, and the bass lines he comes up with are great. Like, they're like the catchiest bass lines. Paul McCartney is one of the guys who shattered that illusion that a bass player had to be some big guy standing in the background. But yeah, anyway, next we have Fixin' a Hole, which I never really liked this song. Sung by Paul. It's kind of another psychedelic, kind of trippier song, I guess. But it's okay. I don't think it stacks up to the rest of the album very well, but yeah, okay. Then we have... Hold on. Sometimes I forget what songs are which. She's Leaving Home. She's Leaving Home is another... It's pretty good, actually. I remember... I remember this song very vividly, actually. I feel like I've heard this song like a lot. Like, I probably haven't, but I feel like I have a lot because when I only had Sgt. Pepper was the first Beatles album I ever actually listened to, like all the way through, and I wore it out because my dad had it, so I watched it a lot. I listened to it a lot, so yeah. She's Leaving Home is basically just about, obviously the name kind of says it all, a girl who's leaving home. She leaves a note, wished it was longer. Parents come down, notice she was gone, all that kind of thing. Next we have Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, which again, a very psychedelic song, and I think it's kind of interesting that nowadays Paul McCartney actually plays Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. That's really cool. I like that song, it's really good. Cirque du Soleil, the Love Show, the Beatles love Cirque du Soleil. I saw that. I've never seen Paul McCartney live. I would love to, but it's one of my life goals is to sometime see him live. But Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite is a really good song. I guess Paul and John got the idea. John wrote the song, I think, but Paul was with him while they were at that. They saw a poster, I think in an IT shop actually, and he looked at it and inspired John to write Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. So yeah, good song again. Good song. I'm sorry, I have to look again. Hold on. Okay, Within Without You. It's kind of it's another really a really really trippy George Harrison song. I think there's some sitars in there and some yeah, I think there's some sitars and some really trippy, another really psychedelic George Harrison song on there. I can't remember. I could not tell you what's it about. What it's about, to be honest. I'm sorry. Then we have Paul's "Bouncy When I'm 64," which is probably the least psychedelic song on the album. It's kind of just kind of a. I mean, it's classic, but I mean, it's really not like. It's not like earth-cracking greatness. Like, it's just kind of a tongue-in-cheek song. When I get old, I'm losing my hair. Sorry, I'm an awful singer, but an awful singer. I'm an awful singer, not a awful singer. I'm sorry, but yeah, good song, I guess. It's kind of tongue in cheek. Name says it all. When I'm 64, pretty good though. Next one, which is probably my second favorite on the album, "Lovely Rita." Uh, Really good song there. I love the guitar and the bass work on that one. I love the beginning part. I love the beginning with the ahs that they say at the beginning. Basically, it's Paul singing about a girl he picked up in his car. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, this like girl who was standing there and picked her up and went home and hung out, had some tea. Describes her pretty much. It's basically kind of a profile about this girl. So yeah, good song. My second favorite on the album. I cannot remember what the names of these songs are for the life of me. Okay, then we have "Good Morning." Good Morning, Good Morning," which is kind of another rocking song. I think Paul actually does the guitar on that song as well as the bass. Good song. I think that's one of Paul's better solos that he's ever done, really. "Good Morning, Good Morning" is, I don't really know. Again, it has some good lyrics. What can I say? It's like, how's the boy been? All that kind of thing. It's good. It's good. Good Paul solo on there. Good Paul solo. Then we have Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band Reprise, which that's a really good rocker. That's one of the Beatles' best rockers, I think. I wish it could have been a little bit jammier and a little bit longer so they could maybe go into it a little bit more and kind of like, get into it and start rocking out like really good. They do, but I just kind of wish it was longer. Good song, kind of the same thing as Sgt. Pepper. This is kind of the closer to the album until this closes the album, but then there's A Day in the Life. Opens up, and I'm going out on a limb here. My opinion is going to change soon, I guarantee it, but as of right now, this is the best Paul and John vocal song ever. I just love the part that it's basically two songs meshed into one. They use like a whole band or orchestra choir thing, not a choir, but like a whole orchestra. Paul's part, it's basically singing about what happens in the day of these two guys, which I'm assuming would not be Paul and John because it seems like they have pretty mellow lives. Because I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade. So basically, it's just singing about like, and then Paul gets up, rolls out of bed, drags a comb across his head, found his way downstairs, and had a, So it's singing about basically the lives of these two very different people, resemblant of Paul and John, definitely. But I mean, really, I wouldn't think that it'd be really about them. But yeah. So anyway, sorry that this video was way too long. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, for me, gets a 5. I'm going to give it a 4.75 out of 5. Probably not my favorite Beatles album. Still Rubber Soul. But great album nonetheless. And yeah, so join next time as we talk about the Beatles' ninth album, which is Magical Mystery Tour. So yeah, alright, see you later folks, hope you enjoyed it, and keep on rocking. Goodbye.